All right, I am so excited to be here. I am Katie Joe, and I'm here with my friend and co-author and colleague, Ariel La Fae, who's part of our best-selling book, The Untold Stories of Motherhood. And this is a collaboration book with 22 different segments of people telling different aspects of motherhood that are often not discussed or discussed openly. And there's a plethora of motherhood experiences in there, but I invited Ariel to come today and share a little bit about her chapter and kind of sum up what her chapter message is and who will benefit from this. So thank you for being here. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. I've read your work. I know that you have co-authored the Divine collaboration book as well. I love the way that you write. It is so profound. So tell me a little bit, and the viewers a little bit about your chapter.
I tried to design my chapter so that anyone thinking about having a baby could read it. And it's not just about motherhood. It's about my journey to motherhood, which took some really bizarre turns. I start off talking about how in third grade on career day, it's like I want to be a mom, and that's what I wanted to be, and then I also talk about the abuse I experienced as a child and how that played into me trying to get pregnant later on in life. I talked about going through infertility and having miscarriage after miscarriage. And so really built it up. And then finally, I have my twins. Yeah. And I should be the happiest that I have ever been in my entire life. My lifelong dream of becoming a mother was not just granted, but I have these twins and a supportive husband, and everything is great and wonderful. And I was suicidal. And it's more likely to happen when you've had twins because you have two placentas inside of you doing hormones and so it really is a hormonal thing. It is not a sign of weakness. It is something that any of us can go through. And that's part of what I was trying to get is this is a perfectly normal reaction to the hormonal levels that are just, wreaking havoc with your brain. And to have this conversation early with your midwife, with your doctor, with your partner, with everyone, and get everyone on board. And I even suggested that on your registry, put down, okay, I am registered with this massage therapist. I am registered with this psychotherapist. Yeah. I am registered, and even if you never see a therapist at any other time in your life, chatting with somebody about how your life is about to change when you're in your third trimester, chatting with somebody about, okay, I think I'm about to go crazy because this child will not sleep through the night. Reach out, have somebody there, definitely have your support system.
Yeah. And you and I both are the two authors that included a postpartum story. And it was really hard for me to find anybody willing to tell that story because they were afraid that their children would read it. And I think that that is why women don't want to talk about that. And when you talk about the therapy, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And it is not a sign of weakness. Going through postpartum depression is not a sign of weakness. No. Everything in your life is about to turn upside down. And even if it's your fifth child, as this one was for me, things change every single time. And having an outside voice that can be just the support and the neutrality, because with a support system as you had and I had, my husband and I were both sleep deprived.
Mhm.
And we're both emotionally and involved with these infants and with each other. And so I think that that is such crucial advice. And
Mhm.
I loved the way that you started your chapter out. And so part of, and you've probably already answered it, but part of these YouTube series that I'm starting just to ask the authors about their voice in this is the questions are, who do you feel like your chapter really is to speak to, which you've kind of talked about. But I love the way you started also the conversation with your husband. That's how you started the chapter.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to ask the question so simultaneously is, how was writing this chapter in this book healing for your family and for that? And maybe you can tell a little bit how that chapter started.
Well, so I started off by saying, honey, there's something I have to tell you. And I tell him that I tried to kill myself when the twins were 6 weeks old. And at that moment, and I tried to capture it, where I honestly believed they would be better off without me. David was still, what, 30, 31. And I was like, oh, he could still attract a nice young lady, and we could get somebody who loves to do the housekeeping and would be a great mom to the girls. And if I were just out of the picture, this would be perfect. And I believed it. And that's, the hormones.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so one of the reasons for me writing this was my kids are likely to have it because things like this do tend to be genetic. So if I'm prone to it, they're prone to it. And so I have my two daughters, and they recently turned 18. And it's like, they could be mothers soon themselves, and I have to tell them.
Yeah.
And so it really was for them. Neither of them are dating right now. They're still very, boys are kind of icky, which I think is great at 18 if they still think boys are icky.
Yeah.
Uh, um, but I know that when they start dating somebody, that I am going to bring this up. It's like, this is part of what you need to know about life in general.
Yeah, and I agree with you so deeply. I this is, like I said, this was my fifth child, and in the story that I shared, I reached out to my mother, who I've never reached out to with all the other children to come and help ever, because it was at the point where I just reached out. And when she was here helping me with the baby, she said, "Oh yeah, I used to get postpartum depression so bad." I've had 5 children and I never knew she experienced this. She never felt confident saying anything about it. And so when you talk about being predisposed, yes, but also part of when we don't share about this, I feel and felt like a failure. No, so nobody's talking about it. So the fact that I'm having such a hard time, the fact that I'm struggling so much, it makes me feel like I'm failing as a mom. Just like when you were sharing, I felt that exact same experience, which was they'll be better off without me, because clearly I don't get this. Everybody else gets it. I don't get it. So I'm sucking at this. So
Mhm.
somebody else needs to come in. So that's part of what I think contributes. We need to share about it. So when we're having those thoughts, we go, wait a second, I knew this was going to happen. Okay. And we can catch ourselves. And it's really, I don't want to say normal, but it's not crazy either.
Well, I did something similar with my daughters before they started having periods. I sat them down, I talked about it. They're both autistic as well. And so I literally brought them into the bathroom with me one time and showed them, see, there's a little blood. It doesn't really hurt. One of them's deaf, so I sign it. It doesn't really hurt. Yeah, I have a little cramping. And I talked about hormones and how you just don't feel right. And my one daughter, every so often when she was like 11, 12 will come up to me and go, Mom, I have hormones. And it's just so precious. And just being able to say, I'm not feeling right, and there is a reason I'm
Yeah.
not feeling right. It is not a moral failing. It's not that I'm not doing this womanhood thing right, because if I did, I'd just be out there sailing. Uh,
No,
yeah,
yes,
it's
yeah,
I don't feel right. Uh, I am on drugs. They are called hormones. They are here to make me not feel right, and it will pass.
yeah, and it will pass. And what you brought up too is I love the type of mother you are. I love witnessing and learning from the stories that you share as I've gotten to know you over the years. I really look up to you as
Oh, thank you.
the type of mother that I emulate to be more like. I hope you know that.
Oh,
And I'd like for people to know how to get in touch with you if you're, as many of them will read your chapter, not in the book, but also hopefully see this video. How can they reach out to you, and what is it that you do in terms of, because I know that you have quite a big program, and it's I'm glad you brought up that your children are autistic, and so tell us a little bit about that and how can people find you?
well, I'm on Facebook as Ariel La Fae. I have the website ariellafay.com, and that's ArielLaFae.com. I haven't done anything with it yet. I still need to get together with Heidi, who I think is also one of your authors this time. Um, and I because she's like the tech genius. And so she got me set up with the website, and I need to follow through with that and get things on there. I give presentations on autism, on disabilities. I can do all of my presentations in American Sign Language as well, because I'm fluent in both English and ASL. I, oh, what else? Um, I have an email address. It will be on the website.
And I will include
um,
the website on underneath this video in the
okay.
comments, but I also want to really convey too, though, you've spoken at conferences on autism and you really work with supporting people and helping people understand how this is part of our community.
Mhm.
It's about tolerance and acceptance. And it's also, I don't know that I want to use the word tolerance, but it's about
Tolerance.
awareness
Yeah.
and accepting differences.
Mhm.
And I love that the way that you show up also for the autistic community is so empowering, of just 100% honoring your differences, not being ashamed of them, and not letting culture try to teach you or tell you that being different isn't okay. I love the platform and the way that you share that way, and I think that as an advocate and speaker, you are so profound, well spoken, clear to the point. So I love the way that you show up for people. So I hope people can reach out to you, website put together or not, because you're a powerful, powerful, powerful advocate, and
Thank you.
people feel it when you share. So
Well, you actually gave me the idea for one of the presentations that I regularly do. I did it over just this last weekend, uh, where I talked about how, do you remember that one time when everybody on the planet got a disability all at once? And I talk about how schools were closed, businesses were closed, some forever, and even church got canceled. And so of course I'm talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, and and then I talk about how every single person who had to isolate met the definition of a person with a disability. And that disability was that our immune systems didn't know how to handle this highly contagious virus.
Mhm.
And if we get people to go, oh, yeah, I did have a disability, but I was able to survive and to even thrive. And I figured out how to do things even better. Like right now, we're sitting here on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation, and we might not have thought, hey, we should do an interview over Zoom, that I would actually have to come down to the studio and
Yeah.
meet with you there, which is great because I love the studio, but I wouldn't have been able to do it right now,
Yeah.
on my lunch break.
Yeah.
Um, and so if we get people thinking about, I knew what it was like to have a disability, and I knew people who lost their jobs because of that disability, and I don't want to see that happen again.
Yeah.
And this is how we can modify the way we do things to be more accepting.
And I want to also recognize you and honor you. And I know our time gets to finish up here, but what I appreciate about you is because people like me, a lot of people, I assume, I don't know, but I don't always know the right words to say. I don't really know the right terminology to say, but I'm trying.
Mhm.
And over the years, I have really appreciated the way that you show up from time to time, where you will gently say, let me help you understand that why this could be um, kind of condescending if you were to use these words. And I didn't know. And it really wasn't from a sense of prejudice. It was just from a simple, I didn't know.
Mhm.
And now that I know, and I appreciate the way that you show up, which is very peaceful, but very clear. And you're so good at explaining to people like me who don't understand or have had a background with working with people with disabilities. So I think that I see that you could really be such a valuable asset to companies, to large companies, to present to their staff and things like that, to really support them in their culture and their work culture. So if that was something you wanted to do.
Oh, I have done that for the NASA Ames Center in Mountain View, California. Last year, I gave a speech at the Mensa World Gathering. I was just going to go as a member, but I was like, I have this already done, and I sent it, and they're like, congratulations. I was like, well, okay then. I've done some presentations at some fairly high profile organizations, and I enjoy doing it.
And you're so good at it. You're so
Oh,
good at
thank
it. You're so good at it. I appreciate it. Well, we will send people to ariellafae.com, and people can find you there, and they can find you on Facebook, and they can reach out to you if they haven't read the book yet. They can reach out to you to get an autographed copy. Is that right?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to sign us off
Okay.
and appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.